Good day, everyone. I'm James A. Magpili, ABEL-1A. I'm going to report about the historical sites and landmarks recognized by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. First, I am going to tackle briefly about what is the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. What is the purpose of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines? Why historical landmarks and sites important in the study of history? Why do we need to preserve our historical landmark? First, what is the National Historical Commission of the Philippines? The National Historical Commission of the Philippines is a government agency of the Philippines. Its mission is the promotion of the Philippine history and cultural heritage through research, dissemination, conservation, sites management, and heraldry works. The second one, what is the purpose of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines? By virtue of the Republic Act 10086, is responsible for the conservation and preservation of the country's historical legacies. The third one, why is the historical landmarks and sites important in the study of history? They connect us to the past. Through visiting these places where history occurred, we find our roots. History allows us to feel like we are part of something much bigger. The last one, why do we need to preserve our historical landmark? The reason for preserving them, aside from their architectural value, is that they embody our values, our cultural identity, and historic continuity. Protecting our patrimony help us remind people of their historical roots and identity and can serve to bind the nation together. These are some historical sites and landmarks of the Philippines recognized by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. The first one is Aguinaldo Shrine. Aguinaldo Shrine located in Kawit, Cavite. The Aguinaldo Shrine was the home of the first and the youngest president of the Republic of the Philippines, Emilio Aguinaldo. It's a historical place in Philippines because it's where the first Philippine flag was waved that symbolized the country's independence in 1898. Now, it's a famous tourist spot and houses some of Aguinaldo and his family's memorabilia. What makes this place interesting is that you realize how intelligent Aguinaldo was through the architecture of his house, revealing some secret hideouts and passages that were relevant during the time of war. The highlights of this landmark are its houses historic artifacts that are useful for research and educational purposes, and the many secret passages and hiding places in the house. The second one is Bagong Bayan. Bagong Bayan, also known as Luneta Park. Bagong Bayan is one of the most historical attractions in the Philippines and National Historical Shrine in the Philippines. This is because the Philippine national hero Dr. Rizal was executed here in 1896 after he fought for the country's freedom from the Spaniards through his articles, essays, and novels. Its iconic 58-hectare park is considered as one of the most historical places in Manila because this is where Jose Rizal was executed on December 30, 1896, the day that led to a revolution. The highlight of these landmarks are the Rizal Monument, a great place for strolls and picnic, and a colorful dancing fountain. Fort Santiago. Fort Santiago is one of the most notable Philippines landmarks and important historical sites in the Philippines. Fort Santiago in Intramuros, Manila. It was the place where Dr. Zerizal was held and imprisoned before his execution. Hundreds of lives were lost in these Philippines landmarks during Spanish colonial period and World War II. Today, Fort Santiago is one of the major tourist spots for historical places in Manila in the Philippines. Fort Santiago, as many already know, is a popular tourist attraction in the Philippines. But what is it now? A beautiful and remarkable tourist spot owes it to the horrifying stories that took place century ago. And these stories are not like any others, as this will definitely give you a goosebumps. That's why this place remains one of the most notable and important. The fourth one is Intramuros. Intramuros is the oldest and the historic core of the Manila and built with defensive walls against foreign invasion, hence being called the Walled City. Here you can see the preserved Spanish colonial structures from government's office to residential areas and souvenir shops. The highlights of these landmarks is lots of preserved Spanish colonial structures surrounded by other historical places like Fort Santiago and car tour via bamboo bicycles or by foot. Dapitan Zamboanga del Norte. The Rizal Shrine in Dapitan Zamboanga del Norte is one of the most historical places in Mindanao. This is where Dr. Jose Rizal spent 4 years of exile when he was accused of planning the revolution against the Spanish rule. Rizal Shrine in Zamboanga del Norte is one of the important landmarks in the Philippines. The Jose Rizal Memorial Protected Landscape, also known as the Rizal Park and Shrine, located in the city of Dapitan on the island of Mindanao. It preserves the farm site in the Barrio Talisay where Dr. Jose Rizal was exiled for 4 years from 1892 to 1896. After being accused of sedition and plotting the Philippines Revolution in Manila by the Spanish colonial authorities. The highlights of these landmarks are the Maritero Rock where Rizal watched sunsets and where he wrote one of the most beautiful poems, Mi Vetero, and also perfect for natural lovers. EDSA Shrine. EDSA Shrine, this is where the historic and world-renowned People Power Revolution took place in 1896 to oust the late Ferdinand Marcos Sr. and stop the martial law. The People Power Revolution is one of the world's most historic events because the uprising was peaceful, bloodless, and successful. You will see a few notable monuments in the Philippines in and near the EDSA Shrine. The Shrine of Mary, Queen of Peace, Our Lady of EDSA, which is also known as the EDSA Shrine, is located at the intersection of Artigas Avenue and Epifanio de los Santos Avenue. EDSA Shrine was built last 1989 to remember the memories of People Power Revolution. The highlight of these landmarks are the 35 feet tall image of Blessed Virgin Mary and near shopping malls. Leyte Landing Memorial Park, also known as the MacArthur Leyte Landing Memorial National Park, is one of the most famous monuments in the Philippines. It is a protected area of the Philippines that commemorates the historic arrival of General Douglas MacArthur in Leyte Gulf to free the Philippines from Japanese occupation on October 20, 1944. It is where the famous bronze statue of General Douglas MacArthur is found, which commemorates his historic return to the island of Leyte on the early afternoon of October 20, 1944. Built along with the statue of the brave general are his landing Filipino companions. The highlight of these landmarks is the statue of General Douglas MacArthur and his troops in that exact location where they landed. Biak na Bato. Other historical place in the Philippines is the Biak na Bato in San Miguel, Bulacan. This is the famous landmark in the Philippines where Emilio Aguinaldo and other revolutionaries established the Biak na Bato Republic to be free from Spaniards. The park is 2,117 hectares in area and is a protected area of ecological importance. There are many well-formed trails that lead into the broad network of caves, with some stunning rock formations on display. The most famous of these caves in Emilio Aguinaldo's headquarters. This was actually used as hiding place during World War II. The highlights of these landmarks is several caves including the exact place where the revolutionaries secretly established a republic. Barasuwain Church. Barasuwain Church is not just an ordinary place for worship, but also one of the most historical attractions in the Philippines because three significant events in the Philippines history occurred in the church. The most notable are these three major national events. The first one, the First Philippine Congress. The second one, the drafting of the Malolos Constitution in 1899. The third one, the inauguration of two Philippine presidents, General Emilio Aguinaldo, the President of the First Republic, and President Joseph Estrada, the 13th President of the Republic of the Philippines. Barasuwain Church is a stunning example to the period on which Baroque architecture in Spanish structures built in the Philippines has become popular. The presence of the stone church also implies the presence of the well-built community, with religion place is a great importance. Mactan Shrine. Mactan Shrine in Cebu has played a huge role in the Philippine history. This is the site of the Battle of the Mactan, where the Dato Lapu-Lapu defeated the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan in 1521. The Mactan Shrine is one of the famous Philippines landmarks and was built in honor of Lapu-Lapu. The Lapu-Lapu Shrine is a majestic 20-meter and 66 feet bronze statue depicting a warrior Lapu-Lapu holding a broadsword and a wooden shield. Lapu-Lapu is the ruler of Mactan Island who stood up against the Spanish colonizers who are demanding taxes and submission to their government. The highlights of this landmark is the 66 feet bronze monuments of Datu Lapu-Lapu. Thank you for watching. I hope that you have learned some of the famous tourist spots in the Philippines that I discussed. Have an awesome day. Mama Mary loves you.